Good morning everyone. For today's video, we are going to tackle about technological pedagogical content knowledge. But before that, I'm going to discuss first on how technology works as an important role in education. The 21st century is strongly enabled by technology. Quality education is often equated with the amount of technology integrated in the teaching learning process. Modern educational methods and techniques are integrated with application of technology. It includes instructional materials, methods, and organization of work, and the behaviors of all participants in the educational process, according to Maslin Consultant and LTD 2010. We all know that in our generation, technology is everywhere. And as a future educator, we should have a knowledge in technology because if we are going to teach in the future, mostly we use technology such as in discussion, making instructional materials. We should be knowledgeable on how to use the technology in order to become an effective teacher. The common problem with the current trends in the teaching is the proper integration of technology to blend content knowledge with instructional strategies and skills appropriate for learners. According to Shulman, as mentioned by Spectors and Merrill 2014, propose a special type of knowledge, pedagogical content knowledge, that present as a blending of content and pedagogical adapted to the varied interests and abilities of learner. The TPAC framework was introduced by Ponya Mishra and Matteo J. Kohler of Michigan State University in 2016. It provides the three major knowledge components. It is the content knowledge, or CK, pedagogical knowledge, and technological knowledge. First, we are going to discuss what is content knowledge. Content knowledge refers to any subject matter knowledge that a teacher is responsible for teaching. The teacher should have a strong content knowledge so that they are better able to assess in the cognition and information processing to their learners. So, yung teacher dapat yung content knowledge nila ay malakas para mas madali nilang maturuan yung mga estudyante nila na ma-process yung mga learnings nila. So, and the pedagogical knowledge refers to teachers' knowledge about a variety of instructional practices, strategies, and methods to promote students' learning. So, the teacher should be specialized knowledge of creating effective teaching and learning environment for all students. So, for example, yung teacher dapat is may mga strategies kung paano niya turuan or paano siya maging effective teacher. So, dapat may mga strategy siyang gagawin sa pagtuturo. Last, technology knowledge refers to teacher knowledge about traditional and new technologies that can be integrated into curriculum. So, the teacher should be knowledgeable in teaching using the traditional and the new knowledge. And technological knowledge, tinutukoy dito yung kaalaman ng guro kung paano niya gamitin ang bagong teknolohiya or yung traditional sa pag-a-apply doon sa pagtuturo niya. For example, yung teacher hindi lang dapat gagawa ng PowerPoint tapos papabasa sa mga teacher. Dapat alam ng teacher kung paano yung technology makakatulong or i-apply para mas madali or mas madali siyang maging effective teacher, mas madali siyang maintindihan ng mga estudyante niya sa pagtuturo. Next, equally important to the model are the interaction between and among these bodies of knowledge. The TPECK framework further developed into four components that address how these three bodies of knowledge interact, constrain, and afford each other. These are the following TPAC framework: the technological content knowledge, the pedagogical content knowledge, technological pedagogical knowledge, and last, technological pedagogical content knowledge. First, we're going to discuss technological content knowledge. It refers to knowledge of the reciprocal relationships between technology and content. Disciplinary knowledge is often defined and constrained by technologies by their representational and functional capabilities. So, technological content knowledge is a framework that describes the knowledge required by teachers to represent material using technology. Second, pedagogical content knowledge is to Schulman's 1986 notions of an understanding of how particular topics, problems, or issues are organized, presented, and adapted to the diverse interests and abilities of learners and presented for instruction. So, pedagogical content knowledge plays an important role in the teaching and learning process because it involves teachers' competencies in delivering the conceptual approach, relational understanding, and adapted reasoning of the subject matter. Third is technological pedagogical knowledge, or TPK, refers to an understanding of technology can constrain and afford specific pedagogical practice. So, technological pedagogical knowledge highlights the area where technology and pedagogy influence each other. Incorporating technology into the classroom often causes a change in how the material is taught. A simple example might be when a teacher uses an instructional video clip for a topic that they use to model on the board. Last, technological pedagogical content knowledge, or TPECK, refers to knowledge about the complex relations among technology, pedagogy, and content that enable teachers to develop appropriate and context-specific teaching strategy. Technological pedagogical content knowledge is best applied in the study of reading skills. Teachers need to master the TPECK in order to create an effective learning environment which more fun and engaging to enhance the creativity, innovation, and stimulations of their students. And it also helps teachers consider how their knowledge domains intersect in order to effectively teach and engage in students in technology. And that's all about my discussion. If you have any clarification, please write it in your notes, and in Monday we're going to answer it, and Gisa, we're going to tackle the next topic. Thank you.
As you can see on my screen, there is a diagram called TPACK framework and its knowledge components. So the center of this diagram, otherwise known as TPACK, represent a full understanding of how to teach with technology. We as students, we need to keep in mind that this is not the same as having knowledge of each of the three primary concepts individually. Instead, the point of TPACK is to understand how to use technology to teach concept in a way that enhances student learning experiences. So sa nakikita nyo, in an on-site settings, there are three main components of teachers: knowledge, the content, pedagogy, and technology. Equally important to the model are the interaction between and among these bodies of knowledge. On the other hand, represented the outside settings are pedagogical content knowledge, technological content knowledge, technological pedagogical content knowledge, and technological pedagogical knowledge. So, I will be discussing for you each content. The first one is content knowledge. The content knowledge is teacher's knowledge about the subject matter to be learned or taught. Knowledge of content is critically important for teachers. This knowledge would include knowledge of concept, theories, ideas, and organizational framework. Next will be the pedagogical knowledge. Pedagogical knowledge is teachers' deep knowledge about the processes and practices of methods of teaching and learning. This generic form of knowledge applies to understanding how students learn, general classroom management, and lesson planning and student assessment. Like for example, this is kasama rin sa kaalamang pedagogical ang pag-aaral kung papaano magdisenyo ng nakakaakit. Di ba meron tayong mga iba't ibang intelligences when it comes individually. So, sa pedagogical, kasama rin sa kalamang pedagogical ang pag-aaral kung paano magdisenyo na nakakaakit sa kapaligiran. Sa silid-aralan na nagpapahintulot sa maximum na activity ng mag-aral at regulation sa sarili. Next, pedagogical content knowledge. Pedagogical content knowledge plays an important role in the teaching and learning process because it involves teachers' competencies in delivering the conceptual approach, relational understanding, and adaptive reasoning of the subject matter. Next is technology knowledge. Describe teachers' knowledge of and ability to use various technologies, technological tools, and associated resources. So, sa technology knowledge, tinundo ko yung kaalaman ng guro kung paano niya gagamitin or paano niya ituro yung bagong teknolohiya sa kanyang mga students. So dito, technology knowledge, kailangan yung teacher is may malaking kaalaman when it comes to technology or when it comes to may mga bagong teknolohiya when she teach it in the students. Then technological content knowledge. So technology and content knowledge have a deep relationship. TCK or technological content knowledge is an understanding of the manner in which technology and content influence and constrain one another. Teachers need to master more than the subject matter they teach. And they must also have a deep understanding of the manner in which the subject matter. Next, the TPK, technological pedagogical knowledge, is an understanding of how teaching and learning can change when particular technologies are used in a particular ways. Technological pedagogical knowledge, particularly important siya because most popular software programs are not designed for educational purposes. But software programs such as the Microsoft Office, PPT, or PowerPoint that usually ginagamit natin are usually designed for business environments. Last is technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge, or TPACK, is different from knowledge of all three concepts individually. TPACK is the basis of effective learning with technology, requiring an understanding and representation of concepts using technologies. So, technology is introduced as a means to support and improve the strategies already used in the classroom. The central theme of TPACK development is that this kind of knowledge is situated in a content-specific context or rather more general context. So, the main idea behind the TPACK, or Technology, Pedagogy, and Content Knowledge Development, is that rather than being positioned in a more broad context, this form of knowledge is content specific. Next, the TPACK is the basis of effective teaching, with technology requiring an understanding of the representation of concept using the different technologies emerging in this era. Each situation presented to teachers is a testing combination of the three major factors. However, there is no single technological solution that applies for every teacher, every course, or every view of teaching. So, mm, effective teaching using technology is based on nag-base lang talaga siya sa TPACK, or Technology, Pedagogy, and Content Knowledge. Every circumstances that is given to teachers combines one or more of the three main elements in a unique way. There isn't a single technical solution that works for all points of view on education.
Why is TPAC important? This is exactly why the TPAC framework is important. It is easy to think that adding a great LMS to your class strategy is going to enhance learning, but TPAC shows us that there is a relationship between technology, content, and pedagogy, and the purposeful blending of them is key. If nothing else, TPAC can be a helpful mantra urging you to step back and look at your whole strategy and the nuanced connections between all its moving parts. So now we know that TPAC is very important to the teachers, students, and especially to us, the future educators. Because TPAC is essential to enabling teachers to implement ICT in their teaching, as it enables teachers to select and use hardware and software, identify the affordances of specific features, and use the tools in pedagogically appropriate and effective ways. And TPAC also is a model that helps teachers consider how their knowledge domains intersect in order to effectively teach and engage students with technology. For an example, teachers used to teach penmanship and cursive to their students, but many school districts have eliminated cursive handwriting from the curriculum. Without entering into the debate on the merits of cursive, it is clear that technology has impacted the content knowledge that we teach students. And lastly, professional teachers must have TPAC competencies, because TPAC is in line with the main competencies of teachers. The recommendation for 21st century learning is to improve technological literacy and digital literacy. Learning is directed at digital utilization to increase the effectiveness and quality of education. Now that you know what the TPAC framework is and why it is important, let's look at how it can be applied in the classroom. Below is an example of how you can use your technological, pedagogical content knowledge to enhance a lesson. As mentioned before, the TPAC framework is based on three primary forms of knowledge. So, your first step should be to understand your primary forms of knowledge in the context of this lesson. Content knowledge, or CK. What are you teaching and what is your own knowledge of the subject? For this lesson, you'll need a solid understanding of cell anatomy and processes. Another example. Engineers and mathematics teachers both use knowledge of how to solve algebraic problems in conducting their day-to-day work. Let us all remember that our own content knowledge affects how we interpret the content goals we are expected to reach with our students. It affects the way we hear and respond to our students and their questions. It affects our ability to explain clearly and to ask good questions. Pedagogical knowledge, or PK. How do your students learn best, and what instructional strategies do you need to meet their needs and the requirements of the lesson plan? In this case, you will need to understand best practices for teaching middle school science and small group collaboration. Pedagogical knowledge refers to the specialized knowledge of teachers for creating effective teaching and learning environments for all students. The significance of pedagogical skills for educators is that they enhance the quality of teaching in the classroom. Effective pedagogical skills improve the learning environment by improving the teaching and learning styles. Technological knowledge, or TK. What digital tools are available to you? Which do you know well enough to use? And which would be most appropriate for the lesson at hand? For this lesson, students will need to label a diagram and present, so the ability to fill in blanks with an answer key, finds images from the internet, create slides, etc. are important. So, the technological knowledge trend guides teachers to develop learning activities that support students to develop specialist knowledge of what they will need to design and develop outcomes. We all know that technology provides students with easy-to-access information, accelerated learning, and fun opportunities to practice what they learn. Now, that you have taken stock of your primary forms of knowledge, focus on where they intersect. While the ultimate goal is to be viewing your lesson and strategy through the lens of TPAC, are the center of the model where all primary forms of knowledge blend together. Taking a moment to consider the individual relationships can be helpful. Pedagogical content knowledge, or PCK. Understanding the best practices for teaching specific content to your specific students. Technological content knowledge. Knowing how the digital tools available to you can enhance or transform the content, how it's delivered to students, and how your students can interact with it. Technological pedagogical knowledge, or TPK. Understanding how to use your digital tools as a vehicle to the learning outcomes and experiences you want.